So if there's not much water in the tank, it doesn't need to agitate it as much as if it were full.
It only stirs the tank if it's in the filling process.
Okay.
So the trick is you don't need to draw it down near as much and refill it near as much for it to stir that tank. So we're going from needing about a 20-foot difference in water level. It's like a 40, 50-foot tall tank. So instead of dropping the top 15 or 20 feet of that tank, we can only drop about the top 7 of it. And the modeling shows that it will adequately stir that tank, which, since we don't have that actuating valve going to the entry point, we can no longer cycle that tank like we would want to.
One of the comments you made was that having that tank full during the flood or the freeze was good for us. And you said, if I caught that right, it just got drained and it's fixing to get fixed. How long will it take to get it back online?
Okay, so the contract to rehab that tank is a 120-day contract, and we expect issuing those to receive this Friday, this week. We've got a pre-construction meeting, so we expect them to be done with that by April-ish timeframe this year, so that we'll be ready for the summer demands.
Okay, so it would, yeah, for the summer demands. And so then how would that affect, like if we did have a horrible freeze again, how would that affect the water? Just curious.
Well, we have taken some actions. What happened last February was the water lost power at the power line at our pump station. And it also lost power at the storm center. And Central Texas got some power co-op, the electrical provider. It took some time during that freeze event, but after about 24, 48 hours of talking to the right people, they were able to reactivate power to those facilities so Lampasas could get water. Now those chain of commands are in place, and Article Electric knows which circuit those facilities are on. They didn't even know they work, So these things are in place, and if this happens again, I hope that we've got continuous power to the pump station and the water treatment plant, so we don't see that. And there is a 2 million gallon tank. There's two 2 million gallon tanks within the water system, just 10 to 20 miles from here. So there's that storage that will still pressurize the city while this tank is out.
Thank you.
Is there any plans for Kempner regarding putting in a new actuator or anything, or of changing out that valve?
Yes, there's some improvements that Kemper needs at those entry points, and there's some improvements that the city needs. And as you know, I'm working on this water study for the city, part of our scope, and I've got some recommendations I'm drafting to do just that. What I'd like to see is a new actuating system at each one of those entry points.
How would that affect our mixer? Would it help it? Would it do anything with it, or?
I think it would help water quality, and you would need, the value of the mixer is you don't need that 20-foot drop, 15-foot drop in the tank, you only need about a 7-foot drop. So if anything, if those actuators aren't functioning properly, or something goes wrong in the system and we're not cycling the tank, then you've always got the mixer.
And the reason the other one quit primarily, I assume, was because it was a mechanical operation that just wore out, because it didn't last very long and it was quite expensive.
Mr. Jones, can you ballpark the cost, the additional cost over the 76 that the actuator improvements would cost?
I'd be cautious to say this time. Those improvements on those big lines were substantial. What we need to go in there and do is, there's some chemical injection points there too that the city's got that need a better mixing system than line sack mixer. And there's at least 2 valves at each location that need to be replaced.
And the timing on that would be what?
The recommendations are pending, and so that needs to be budgeted for and done. I don't see that being any closer than a year out. This mixer could get you by.
Okay. Are there other questions?
Yes, so in your bid packet, we had the bid tabulation for the cost of this mixing system. And there's a lot of pages in that bid tabulation because we had the pleasure of getting, I think, 8 bids on this project. So we had budgeted $733,000 for the work.
65 even? Wow, thank you. Yeah. We like those. Did you have other information for us? You're talking about the water line? Or is that Derek? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Jones. Second on the agenda is discussion and updates related to COVID-19. Chief Smith? Thank you, Chief. Next item is discussion regarding the engineering related to relocation of water lines due to Txdot 281 improvement project.
Good evening, Council. What I have here for you tonight is two photos of existing water lines that are being impacted by the 281 project and proposed or probable relocation plans. The picture you're looking at right now is South 281 with the old Young's Barbecue, basically at 12 p.m. here, 12 o'clock. The yellow line that runs parallel with 281 is the existing 8-inch water main that Txdot is proposing that we move. It's not 100% that we have to move everything right now. They are working diligently, as a matter of fact. So we may not have to move these, but with a deadline of August, we need to be on the ball as soon as they say go. So with the yellow line being the existing 8-inch water main that needs to be moved, in discussion with Derek Eckerman, we've come up with two possibilities. The first possibility is the blue line tying back into the 18-inch, approximately at the entrance of the Hancock Park now, comes around and follows the fairway of hole number 17 of the golf course and ties back into the 8-inch. And then we would kill that yellow line, the 8-inch that runs around the highway, so it would not be in their way. Option two, and speaking with Derek, he thinks this might be the cheapest one, is the pink line that would tie onto the 16-inch that serves the high school, bore under 281, and reconnect into the 8-inch on Naruna. Now, not only will this benefit this project, it will also serve as a secondary feed to the high school. We only have one feed to the high school now, which is tied to the 18-inch. So this one would probably be the most likely option and would benefit the city and the school, and it's probably be a little bit cheaper. The second line discussed is the 18-inch water main as it comes around EE Omnis from the entrance from the mainer. As you can see, it follows the curvature of the road, and it's in the Txdot right-of-way all the way. This line is going to be impacted by the drainage from the entrance to this point right here. That's the underground drainage that goes through Ruth Eakin Theater into the creek. Their 30-inch drain pipes will be about a foot away from this 18-inch main, this entire length of the project right here. So our only option is to make the connection here as it comes down the driveway through the mainer. Stay as far to the south on the right-of-way as possible, and then right here at this point is where Txdot right-of-way juts out into the vacant lot. We could jump to the very edge of it, stay away from drainage, stay away from the sidewalk, stay away from the gas and the proposed overhead lights for the highway, and then make the connection back in here at the dirt drive to the old barbecue. As I said at the beginning, it's not 100% a go from Txdot that we have to move everything. They are trying to work around this main with discussions with Derek and Jason both, neither one of them feel safe with all the construction around this water main, and it's going to be during school times, and there's no way to keep the school in with water if they break this. I think it would be best that we move this line. We've moved it once, added some valves, did some work to it. If we'd have known Txdot was planning this project then, we could have really moved it out of the right of way and got it out of the way. But that is the two lines that are going to cause the most problems. There are two more, but city staff's going to handle those and have those done before the project kicks off. If
So
y'all have any,
we've got two engineers that are advising us to go ahead and move the lines, even though we don't know yet from Txdot that we have to? Is that what I'm hearing?
yes, because of the how close the water line is going to be to their excavation for the drainage, that water line could blow out because there's only going to be about a foot or two of dirt holding back that water line and the pressure. We can't turn it off during the construction because of the school,
Right.
and it's the main feed to our Spring Street water tank. Yeah, I just don't want to take the chance of this thing breaking, because if it breaks once, we put it back together, it's going to break again during this 2-year process of this construction.
So I guess it's a thing, if Txdot breaks it, they don't buy it?
Unfortunately, that's not the case.
Okay.
Van?
How much was, I was going to say, how much was the cost on these? Just curious. We don't know yet.
Do you have anything? He hasn't run any numbers yet.
Let me ask one question on the blue line on that second picture you put up there.
This one right here?
Yes, on that blue line, you're talking about moving it over to the edge of the Txdot right away.
Yes.
Would it be possible maybe to approach the property owner adjacent and put it in an easement there at the front of that property and get it completely out of Txdot right away? You're not talking about just a few feet.
Yes, we can.
Yeah, in concurrence from the engineer, we certainly could.
There's a possibility we could require an easement for that little section right in there. And I think it'd be better to get it out of the Txdot right away if we could.
I will say too, I've also had a conversation with Txdot. They're currently looking at redesign on their part to move the storm sewer into the road. So it would be further away from that 8-inch water line. It still won't be constructing curbs and sidewalks within a few feet right on top of that 18-inch.
Well, you know, 2 foot, 3 foot, still not enough. When you get in there, it's real easy with the movement of that line for it to bust. But I would prefer to try to get it in an easement rather than in the right of way.
Any other comments or questions for Van or Derek? Thank you both.
Mayor, one thing I might add is maybe directed towards Derek. Would it be reasonable if council were to consider award of a design contract with Ackerman Engineering? Could we do it contingent upon the findings of Txdot or what their final direction would be?
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that. I even mentioned that to Dan, if they do come up with a design that doesn't really impact as much of this 18-inch water line, or something we can definitely.
Are you asking us to come to just negotiate that with him and then ratify it later? At our
I would
meeting in
think
January?
probably the corresponding action item that council would consider, you might consider making it conditional upon the Txdot findings for
Right.
the need for the relocation if for some reason they decide to do something different. And Derek agrees and Van agrees it's in the best interest that we don't have to mess with it, then we wouldn't. But otherwise, I wouldn't have to bring it back to you. I could go ahead and execute that design contract.
Okay. Any other comments? Thank you both. Next item is discussion relating to recap from City Council work session, including comprehensive plan implementation and project updates.
Mayor and Council, as we discussed last Wednesday, I think a very productive planning meeting. We were going to come back tonight and at least go through the project listing. We still have a lot more on our plate to accomplish that we'll take another bite out of perhaps January, February. But at least for now, we did want to go ahead and take the opportunity to review some of the projects we're working on. And as Mr. Jones referenced, I did include his update memo in your packet. That's the only thing I included. The project listing was available at the meeting, and then I have another list for you at your seat at the dais. But I think unless council has something specific they'd like to talk about, I'll just run through the high points. I think this is all something that you know, you can read and digest on your own. If you have questions, ask me, but I'll just run through these quickly in terms of where we are, primarily compared to where we reported on July 7th of 21. East 3rd Street paving, pre-con has been conducted. I believe the NPT, notice to proceed, has been issued for January 3. We are in the process of notifying adjacent property owners and also those businesses that received delivery via 3rd Street. We are also considering an alternate or change for ramp and accessibility in between Western and Live Oak, so that's something that we may look at. Water meter installation, they're going through another round of those beginning this December, January. MyGov is implemented, being utilized. We've got to go through a fairly good education process. It takes a lot of time to educate folks that, hey, you don't necessarily have to come into City Hall. And some of them really like coming into City Hall anyway, but you can do all the permitting online, and Frank can keep up with that online as well. Public safety communications, that was a huge project that council undertook, and that, I'm pleased to report, is complete and operational. We do still have a few ticket riders that we have not been able to get into the cars that are currently being installed, but once those are installed, I think we'll be 100%. Tree trimming will start at the end of this month. Cemetery pole barn, our cemetery staff has been swamped. I think we've just had more openings this past year than normal, and so Chris and Dwayne have not been able to get their heads together on that, but we do have a commitment to try to get that in front of some contractors in the first quarter of 2022. Brook Park retaining wall is done. Comp plan is done. We're moving into, obviously, the implementation phase. The upper pressure plane study, and this is where I might just step aside and let Jason talk about the contents of his memo and where he is.
All right, last time we talked about this, I know we've got some new faces here, so I thought I might just hit a couple of highlights. I know you probably don't remember it as well as I do. So, what we've done with this is in 2020, Van and his team helped us out a lot with some pressure recorders in town. We kind of scattered those out in the lower pressure plane and in the upper pressure plane. And mind you, while we are paying attention to the lower pressure plane as part of this study, is what we recognize going into the scope of work is you're doing enough flushing in the upper pressure plane for a few hundred homes. And so that's really an issue, and a lot of that flushing is due to water quality, so we're kind of looking at those aspects in the lower plane. So we have identified some issues in the lower pressure plane, and staff is actively working on those. I will say, and those are noticed in here. One of them is the replacement of an aging fill valve at Spring Street ground storage tank. I think Van's ordered the parts, and he's been working on that. That fill rate of 3,000 gallons per minute is pretty tremendous, and we saw the lower pressure plane, the pressure just kind of being pulled down substantially every time that tank filled. It was also causing some water hammer effects and possibly some of the broken lines on that 18-inch
main could have been caused by that. So, there's also a closed, pretty big valve on that 18-inch line that we've discovered, and it's been field confirmed, and they're working on fixing that, I think, with some of the improvements Derek was working on. Okay. So projected growth information, we've got a really good data set to work off there. We've captured an unusual growth curve, obviously, in the last year. And we've also got the 2020 census data available to us, so I feel really good about that. Something else we've done is your water meters. What the city has never had in the past is a geographic location of all of its water meters. I can say that you do now. And we've got a nice map that shows 3,500 something odd, 600 something odd meters, you know, where they are by address. So that's a good product that's come out of this. And last but not least, again, the flushing demands and the chemical usage at these injector sites that were put in a few years ago. Van tells me there's about a $35,000 a year chemical bill there that I hope to substantially reduce after we're done with all this. Okay. And, okay. If there's anything else to ask, I'll be happy to answer. Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you, Jason.
Just to continue to run down the list, IT building improvements are done. Chip readers we have. Electric extension, really what has been done is all that needs to be done to this point. So when I say 95% complete, that really just communicates to you, if we need to set a service pole based on the location of the house, we may have to do some things like that, but your baseline infrastructure is complete with the exception of Hidden Oaks, which has not been initiated yet. Sweeper vac truck are in. Pre-treatment assessment, the assessment is complete, and now we're going to be into the design and negotiation phase, which we hope to kick off sometime in Q1 of '22. We did have an emergency culvert replacement of kind of gosh, it seemed like it took forever, on West 3rd Street. That is complete. The Avenue H culvert undermining and guardrail is complete. Campbell Park design is confirmed. Pad work is to commence in the Q1. Skate Park timeline was being prepared the first week in December. We are going to be getting that here any day, and staff will review that when we receive it. Hostess House rehab, council has approved the design contract. The geotech survey has been ordered, and as-builts are currently being finalized. Hike and bike trails at 580. The conceptual plan has been received. Scales options have been received. And really what's happening now is there's a grassroots and volunteer effort to try to install some of those trails. And I think it's, according to Chris, it's really been done well. It has not impacted negatively anything else that's going on out there. In fact, it's benefited it. Business Park Phase 1. The funding is secured. Project, including alternates, are currently being advertised. The bid opening is in January 13, I believe, Derek. Is that right? Derek still here? No. January 13 for those bid openings. They do specify that's a 365-day project. That seems like it's an awful long project. Hopefully they can do that sooner rather than later. We are going to be doing the electric design in parallel with this through the city's consulting engineers. A couple of other items, as Jason just talked about, the Interceptor evaluation. That study is about 60% complete. We're hopeful to have a draft for review by the end of December. The 2020 CDBG, that's something that will be on your agenda this evening. We did receive good bids. The entire project is over about $43,000 more than what the state and our grant match is, which is not, we typically will do a larger project because we get a big bang for our buck, but that'll be something that council will be asked to consider to award tonight, and certainly it's staff's opinion that if you're going to do this, you go from key to porter. You don't try to find $43,000 worth of savings. Internet deployment, just as an update, I know that NextLink has been here once to talk to you about their deployment. Currently, roll call has about 217 attachments. About 45 of those are unpermitted. We currently have contacts with NextLink. As of last week, we had 1,000 contacts on our polls from NextLink. Industrial park property, we did complete the scoring. I think staff would like to discuss some deal points with you regarding a lease and/or purchase agreement, which we'll be taking up with council. Projects that have been initiated after 7/7 or are in planning or discussion phase. In discussion, we may, sometimes we'll pick up a project and we'll begin that kind of conceptual discussion portion of it before we go into more of the serious and more formal steps. So there are projects that kind of fall under that category. Substation upgrades, relocation of city assets. We've already relocated a few of the poles over there by the Lampasas sub. Construction is targeted to begin first quarter, and we have had the co-location agreement reviewed by council as well as the reimbursement agreement. So this is a project that will cause the city to relocate some of its assets within that substation. There is a point of connection in the substation where it's clearly defined. This is LCRA side, and then everything from here on is City of Lampasas side. So when they relocate those, LCRA is going to reimburse the city for that relocation. South 281 relocation, we just talked about that. I don't know that I have anything else to add other than we want to remind you that we're also looking at that utility pole at the corner of Naruna and 281. And we will, my guess is what Snyder and what Flint will recommend is a concrete pole on either side of 281.
Finley, do we have enough right-of-way to do all the turn and everything that they're wanting?
Txdot is currently negotiating that.
Okay.
Airport terminal plan, we've made contact with Txdot about the permission to use the non-primary entitlement funds. We should hear back about that shortly. Fire apparatus, as Yvonne will mention to you this evening, we're starting to sock some money away for the fire apparatus. 3 items, and I think all 3 of these, well, the next 2, I've certainly highlighted on my list. These would probably fall under the category of economic development, but they're also really valid system improvement projects. And we suggest maybe on these 2 projects, you may want to consider a design and shelf. If you're not quite ready to take it to construction, let's go ahead and get the engineering done on it, or 90% engineering done on it. That's a 6-inch water line extension on Live Oak from North to 2nd Street. That would tie in that north main and the main that's in 2nd Street on Live Oak. The other one would be, as we discussed previously, a wastewater line replacement that basically runs from the senior center around on Pecan to approximately 5th. And with some of the proposed development in that area, that's a line, frankly, that should be replaced regardless of what goes on there. And then the East 2nd Street drainage and right-of-way improvements. And just for a council's update, we have not executed the 380 agreement for the right-of-way improvements, but we certainly want to be coordinated with the damage kind of mini box culvert under the curb there from I don't think it's quite western, but it's western almost through past Live Oak. Projects deferred by council for further investigation, and we just kept this on the list, but we do want to point out on the historic colored school, New Hope Baptist Church, that we've hopefully given you the materials you've asked for in terms of the historic assessment and the guidelines for rehab. But the important note to keep in mind is that no further work has been initiated by staff. So at the point in time that council wishes to take those up, we'll take them off the shelf, but at this point, they remain as basically a deferred project. And really the agenda item tonight was to just take this bite out of it, what we left off. We certainly did not get into the comprehensive plan implementation steps as thoroughly as we would like to, but again, we'll have time to pick that up at our next meeting, but I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Finley.
Thank you.
Next item is a discussion on any item on the regular agenda, and I had some concerns about 7.5, which is regarding board appointments to the P&Z, and I asked Becky to give us some information. I did not want us to approach this and have to make a decision at the time that we were making a motion. So I was concerned that Mr. Jackson, who is the president, I think, of P&Z,
He is the chair. Yes, ma'am.
chair, he did not feel that this was his concern or the commission's responsibility to make this appointment. I don't necessarily feel it's the council's job to make his appointments for him. We ordinarily get some recommendations, and then we vote on those. So if anybody has any questions about these appointments or any questions about the resumes of anyone who's applying for these jobs, this would be a good time to ask. Did you want to tell us a few things about each one of them?
Oh, absolutely. First, I just wanted to say that this is very unique. I mean, I've never encountered a problem with the board recommending anybody, as an applicant on their board, because I feel they want to have, a say in if it's a good fit for them, if they has good qualifications, if it's somebody that's going to add value to their board. So I was kind of taken aback a little bit. I wasn't quite sure how to proceed. So when Mr. Jackson had recommended that each of the board members pick 2 people, I just kind of went with it and said, okay, we'll see what that comes out to be, and hopefully we can make a good determination at that point. I kind of summed it up for you, and I have it up a little bit to show you. Each of them were a little unique in how they voted, but I did take each of them over the responses so we could have a little bit of information about each of them. So based on the commission's recommendation, it appears that the board is in favor of appointing Danielle Shepard, who is currently on my zoning board as an alternate, and she's also a real estate broker and school teacher. And then Zach Taylor, he is actually an office manager. He's actually his operations manager at Ajinomoto Foods. And then Tim Heffley is an operations manager with Seamless Gutters, and he's currently a member of the Citizens Police Academy alumni. And then we have Michael Syberson, who's a retired teacher. And those were the 4 that stood out with their recommendations, because with having them all put 2 down, I had to kind of narrow it down some way. I feel personally, based on their community of where they are and what their input is and what their resume looked like, I feel any of them would be a good fit. Nobody learns planning and zoning overnight. It's going to have to go through the zoning regs just like the rest of us and understand land use, and it'll take some time to get them up to par. But I'm excited. I mean, we had 8 applicants who were interested in the board, and that's kind of new for us because it's taken a lot to get community involvement in some of our boards. Now, none of them have actually been to many of the meetings. They may have been to 1 or 2 over the years. I don't really know, to be honest with you. They haven't been to any recent, but they do have an interest.
And how long has Mr. Jackson been on this commission?
I want to say close to about 15 years, I believe.
Are we in the process of curtailing term limits, or do we
Yes, ma'am.
bring that up?
Yes. His actual appointment is actually up in 2022 in September, and that is something to consider. And that is one of the things that I feel is important, that those who are especially been on the board for that long of time, that they're adding value to that board, and they're a mentor and they're a guide, and they're helping teach and educate those members, especially the new members. So I really think that it's important that we do use that 6-year limit that we put in our governance policy and kind of mandate it for those that it's like I said, they need to be passionate about it. I feel it's something that needs to be their calling, and they need to have an active participant in the board and understand the board.
Does anyone on council have any questions about these appointments? Do you know anyone well enough to make the decision for them? You don't?
I know 2 of them, and that's Zach Taylor and Tim Heffley. Personally, I've been around them quite a bit. But
So you'd feel comfortable?
Yes, I do.
And I do recall that Zach Taylor, I believe, had run for council at one
He
time.
had,
So he
yes.
does have an active interest in the community.
Okay.
So.
Well, all right, I was just concerned that we were being asked to make recommendations for
Yes, ma'am.
something that we...
And I did make it clear to the planning commission that this is not out of the norm, that it is something that we do on a regular basis, that all of my boards will recommend somebody to y'all to appoint.
Right, okay. All right, thank you, Becky. Does anyone have anything they want to discuss on any other item? Do we want a break? Let's take a 10-minute break if everyone's agreeable. Get a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Lead us in prayer.
Please stand and join me in prayer. Wise and loving Father, we thank you for the amazing day that you've given to us. We thank you for the way that you work in our lives. Father, thank you for the goodness and for the blessings that you provide over us. Thank you for giving hope in the toughest of times. Father, we thank you for the great love, care, mercy, and grace that you give to each of us. Thank you for the incredible sacrifice that you made for us, Lord. Father, there are some during this holiday season that are suffering. Please renew their spirits and fill them with peace and with joy. Father, we ask that you watch over our meeting tonight and that you guide us and that you direct us with your wisdom. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Okay, Chuck. We have no presentations or proclamations. I'd go to 1.1, citizen comments. Any citizen who desires to address the city council on a matter not included on the agenda may do so at this time. The city council may not deliberate on items presented under this item. We do have city manager from Kempner, David Williams.
Hello, Mayor and City Council. As she said, my name is David Williams. I'm the city manager over in Kempner. And we're actually going to be hosting a household hazardous waste event in the city of Kempner on February 26th of next year. So I've worked with the Central Texas Council of Governments, also known as CITCOG. They have a solid waste advisory committee that every year distributes about $65,000 in funds to run these events. This coming year, there's going to be 6 events held within the 7 counties that are participants in CITCOG. Most of them are going to be the main cities of Bell County just because they go and ask for that. Gatesville's also having one. This is the first one that CITCOG has funded out here in a while. I do know you guys have had your own funded events like these in the past. But with CITCOG giving $15,000, I went and spoke with the County Commissioner's Court, and the County Commissioner's Court has offered $5,000 towards this event, plus they gave us permission to come back and ask for more if the event goes over. So the way that this event works is if it only costs $15,000, only CITCOG pays. If it ends up costing up to $20,000, CITCOG and the county pay. And what we're asking for you guys is to backstop that in case it becomes a huge event by committing alongside the county another $5,000. Obviously, you can't make any motions tonight because it's not on the agenda, but I want you to be thinking about it, and I can come back in January if you have any questions. But it's a huge cleanup for the community, and we're making this, it's open to all residents of all 7 counties, and we're making this a cleanup event because we're having trash companies do bulk drop-offs as well. I've already worked with Kempner Iron and Metal. They're gonna be open on that Saturday when they're generally not, so that if people can bring anything and that they don't have to take it with them. So if it's household hazardous waste, it's going to be disposed of appropriately so it doesn't hurt the environment. It makes it safer for our first responders. If there's fires or if there's emergencies, you don't want those stockpiled at their houses and in their barns and in their sheds. You want them to get rid of it, so it makes it safer for everyone. It's safer for the community, and it keeps stuff off our roads. We also are going to be accepting tires and stuff like that, and there are going to be limits on the number of tires individuals can bring, but if they bring more than that, there's going to be a small fee on that. But otherwise, all of this is free. And we're trying to just make it a really big success, and it would be nice if you guys could help backstop that event a little more, just in case it is a huge success. Like I said, you would be the last money hit. It goes SITCOG, county, then city. So if you have any questions or...
We're not allowed, but thank you.
You're right. I do apologize. So if you give me a moment, I'm trying to think of if I've hit all the points. I think I have. So if you do have any questions, I would love to come back in January, or you can also always just reach out to me at citymanager@kempnertx.gov is my email. It's on this Kempner website as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you, David. 1.2, citizen comments. Any citizen who desires to address the city council on a matter that is included on the agenda may do so at this time. I don't see anyone. 1.3, public hearing to receive citizen comments regarding a request for a specific use permit for property described as Warren Badger First Tract 2.5 acres and Warren Badger Second Tract 2.55 acres of the Daniel Stanley Survey, abstract number 631, commonly known as 2209 South Highway 183, Lampasas County, to allow for the sale of storage buildings.
Good evening. Good evening. Oops, hang on.
indicates by the red dots where those counts are held. We typically have not made very many adjustments, but I think we've...
There you go.
Got it? Okay. But I think we have, I don't have to talk quite as loud now. But I think we do have, particularly with some growth out west, probably the suggestion for additional counts on North and South Willis, on Western and on Avenue E, particularly with that roadway done. We do have the ability to make suggestions or notes to Txdot by December 15th. So should you have any suggestions, please let me know. But I think the spots that I will indicate are where we're seeing some new rooftops and maybe some more impacts, particularly Avenue C and Willis in that area, and et cetera.
Have we ever done any counts on West First?
West First?
Because of
I
the
don't.
development out west of town? What's coming down first? First and Sixth are
Yeah.
carry a lot
Well,
of traffic.
Sixth, there are a couple of counts on Sixth. They do counts at Howe, and then I think there's another counting spot on Sixth.
Probably,
Yeah, there's a count just east of Howe on Sixth, and then on the other side of Key, there are two counts on Sixth there. If we wanted to ask for one a little further west, we could certainly do that. First Street, there are appears to be one, but it's just right at Key Avenue, so we could probably ask for one or two more on First Street.
I think one would certainly help,
Okay.
west of Howe.
Yeah, I think just either side of Howe probably would be, or maybe west of Howe, like you suggest. We'll put that down. Anything else? McCoy's tree trimming service will be here starting December 20th. They'll be here for approximately 6 weeks. We have put notification out in the newspaper that we will also be doing door hangers around areas that we will be trimming. Filing, just Becky reminds that if you'd like to file, packets should be ready first part of the year. The filing will actually be done January 19th through February 18th for places 3, 4, and 5. Dumpster stickers, we've got, thanks to Waste Connections and Becky, they're going to be tagging our dumpsters, just letting people know that if they're not paying for a dumpster, that it's theft of service. So I talked to Chris again today. We've relocated 7 park dumpsters, and he feels like really the park trash takes up about 3 of those dumpsters. So the other 4 were going towards people in and out of the community that wanted to utilize those, as well as there were a lot of times there weren't any room in the dumpsters for them to take their own park trash, so they'd have to go ahead and bring it down to the yard anyway. So those will be happening. Just as a reminder, Citizens Collection Station is open Wednesday to Friday from 9 to 3 and also Saturday 8 to noon. And over the holidays, we'll have some curtailments there, but in and around the holidays only. Building codes, those will go into effect in January. Story walk, this is a really interesting idea. I think it's a great combination of 2 of the better things we do in our community. But it's an idea that Shanda has come up with. She talked with Emily about it. They met with Chris. And it's actually, you can go from page to page along the trail in the park and read the story. So Chris is talking to somebody about fabricating those page holders. And then perhaps even with LCRA coming out to do a volunteer work day, we might get them to place those. But I just, I think there are good things happening at our library, good things happening in our park, and I think this is a great example of it. Development, although we've seen some conceptual ideas, there's just to let council know, there's more folks talking about putting more rooftops in and around Lampasas. Sometimes a subdivision that we really won't have much to do with because we won't be providing utilities to it, or it's not commercial, so it won't really come under the 1445 agreement, but there may be others that will be closer that we are providing utilities for that will have a little more say so in the subdivision of the property and the development. But so we're still you know, the biggest one we've had in a long, long time has been the houses out at Stone Valley, and we're looking at folks that are wanting to do double and triple that amount that we've done out there. So it continues to come. Be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Finley. Mayor comments, and I, again, would just like to thank everyone that helped us on December 4th. We had the Carol of Lights Festival along with the Holly Dazzle lighted Christmas parade that evening. Chief Bailey, Chief Smith were lifesavers for us, along with the CP, AAA. We had lots of other volunteers helping. The vehicles that you guys put into the parade were very appreciated. I was not here for the Christmas on the Creek event. I hope it was well attended, and I know that you guys always participate in that as well. So thanks to everyone who helped keep everything safe. And I do believe we didn't have any incidents of any sort. Thank you. We have no unfinished business. New business 7.1, discussion and possible action regarding the award of a 2019-2020 Txdot CDBG Wastewater Project 7220260 on West Avenue C in the amount of $373,466 to Royal Vista.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. As you said, this is our 2019-2020 Community Development Block Grant for a wastewater improvement line on Avenue C from Porter to Key Avenue. It's approximately 3,000 foot of sewer main, and it directly or indirectly serves about 100 residential services. City funds $55,000 and a grant of $275,000. You will be hearing a presentation after me by Ms. Cindy Metro explaining more about the CDBG project. If you have any questions or concerns, I'll answer them right now.
Did you want to bring up the amount that is not covered by the match?
Oh, yes, ma'am. The match is not covering $43,466. However, staff recommends using wastewater funds 520, 5530, and 530, 5540, which is capital improvement funds.
And so you have enough to cover that almost 100,000?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Are there any questions from council? I'd entertain a motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All of those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, Van.
Thank you.
7.2, discussion and Section 3 presentation by Langford Community Management Services as a condition of funding for the CDBG wastewater project 7220260. Ms. Cindy Metro.
Hello, Council. This Section 3 presentation, I'm not going to read every slide, so I'm going to click through it pretty quickly. But this is a new requirement as of July 1st. You received your, oops, went too fast. Okay. You received the money from Texas Department of Agriculture, and that money originally came from HUD, the federal government. So these new requirements are from HUD. And this is as a condition of funding. They just want every council to be aware of Section 3, which is trying to hire low to moderate income people. So they want, you can be a Section 3 business or you can be a Section 3 worker. A Section 3 business qualifies if it's owned by low to moderate income persons, or if it's owned by a Section 8 housing resident, or 75% of all labor hours for for the business in a 3-month period are performed by Section 3 workers. And then we have to register at HUD's portal. For this construction project, we put it on the HUD portal to make sure that they can see it as well. We track the hours of Section 3 businesses. It's not very likely that you're going to have a Section 3 business. We'll be tracking Section 3 workers is what's really going to happen. So you qualify as a Section 3 worker if that person's income is below the county threshold for low to moderate income. So what we'll do is we'll look at the payrolls, we'll look at their hourly rate, and then we'll compare that against the county's threshold for low to moderate income to identify those workers.
May I just ask, you as a company, the Langford Company, will do that tracking?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
We have to track all the hours, the labor hours on the project, and then we have to track the low to moderate income hours on the project as well.
Okay.
This is just your target area. If somebody lives inside that red circle, that we have to track that separately. So we have to compare their addresses to what the red circle shows. And then the record keeping, like I said, Langford will track all of that. And that is it. Do you have any questions for me?
Any questions? Thank you, ma'am.
All right, thank you.
Appreciate it. We have 7.3, discussion and possible action to approve the first reading of an ordinance to approve, deny, or approve with modifications a request for a specific use permit for property described as Warren Badger First Tract, 2.5 acres, and Warren Badger Second Tract, 2.55 acres of the Daniel Stanley Survey, abstract number 631, commonly known as 2209 South Highway 183, Lampasas, Texas, Lampasas County, to allow for the sale of storage buildings.
Mayor and council, this item was discussed during public hearing, and at this time, I'm asking you to approve the first reading of the ordinance for a specific use permit with the conditions that I will bring back in January for the second reading, a site plan of where Mr. Badger and I discussed placement of these buildings on his property.
Anyone have questions?
Recommend first reading of the ordinance.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. 7.4, discussion and possible action regarding the approval of the final plat of Onken Shepherd Lane subdivision within the ETJ of the City of Lampasas, Lampasas County, Texas, being part of the James W. Robinson Survey, abstract 583, Lampasas County.
Mayor and council, this is the final plat of 28 acres that is being proposed into 7 lots. I have identified the individual lots on my agenda cover. They range anywhere from 2 acres, 13 acres. A couple of them will just be 1 acre lots. This property is in the ETJ. It does not have a zoning designation. The areas are characterized as agricultural. The property is surrounded by single-family homes and undeveloped land. City water is available. Electric is available with easements, and these properties will be on septic. They will not be on sewer. Okay, so you will notice on the plat that I provided to you with the contours, there is a natural drainage flow from Teton that goes up to Shepherd Lane, and that has been addressed and identified by the developers. They understand that. And you will also notice that there is the pond easement that's down there by Diamond Ridge. That as well has been addressed, and that is private property, and that is something that he will build around, of course, and utilize that to the way he wants to use it. Lots 1, 3, and 4 will access off of Shepherd Lane. Lot 2 will access off of Diamond Ridge. And then lots 5, 6, and 7 will access off of Private Road 1015. And this was something that when I went before my Planning and Zoning Board, they were concerned that at my original plat, I didn't have Private Road 1015 labeled at the top. So I went back to the surveyor and had them put that in there for me. So on the copy on your dais, you will see that we have had it, arrows up there showing private road 1015, just to make sure that those lots 5, 6, and 7 would not ever be landlocked. They do have an access point to where they will develop it at a later time. As stated before, the Planning Commission did hear this on December 2nd, and they did recommend approval. That was their only condition, and I did have that modified for them. Bradley Andrews is in the audience. If you have any specific questions that I cannot answer for you, he is part of one of the lots to be developed.
Anyone have questions? Anyone want to make a motion?
Move to approve.
A second? Kathy, we have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you very much.
We have 7.5 is discussion and possible action regarding the appointment of 2 new board members to the Planning and Zoning Board.
Mayor and Council, we briefly talked about this during our workshop session, just to identify any concerns or issues you had or get more information about the actual candidates. Like I said, we're really excited to have 8 candidates that are interested in the Planning Commission. I think any of them would do a great job for us. We all need training, we all need learning, we all need development, and that's something that we will push to strive for going forward. But like I stated before, narrowing down what they recommended, I did present those 4 to you, and staff would like you to recommend at least 2 so we can get this board appointed and get them up to where we need to, because right now we do have 2 vacancies.
Great. Does anyone have any 2 that they would like to nominate?
Yes, ma'am. I would like to recommend Zach Taylor and Danielle Shepard. Zach Taylor and Danielle Shepard.
Any other nominations? Would we want to vote for those 2?
I recommend Tim Heffley.
With one of those, or
Yes, with
Someone
one of
else.
those, yes.
Zach or Danielle?
Danielle.
So we have Zach Taylor and Danielle Shepard, and then we have Tim Heffley and Danielle Shepard. Any others? You see why we don't need to do it this way?
Exactly.
I hope you convey that message to Mr. Jackson that he needs to tend to his own business.
I'd like to say I'm so excited that so many fabulous, wonderful, qualified people have offered to help.
Absolutely.
Because there's so many people on here that would be great.
I agree. I agree completely. I'm excited. I really am.
What did you recommend, Penley?
I just asked Becky if it would be appropriate to take up a singular nomination.
Vote?
I mean, it appears that one person has been nominated by 2 different people, and maybe you take that person's name up first, and then you can vote on a subsequent nomination. That's
It works for
work?
me. Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right, so we have a nomination for Zach Taylor. Do we have
Second.
a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So there's Zach. We have a nomination for Danielle Shepard.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Okay, so just to clarify, we're going to go with Zach Taylor and Danielle Shepard. Everybody is unanimous about it.
Well,
Everybody's unanimous.
What about Tim Heffley? You were Tim Heffley
I know him. I mean, you got
instead of, or?
a number of contestants here. So.
That's what I seconded, and that's what.
We're-
voted,
That's
right?
that's where I was heading, that
Well,
everybody
there were
has seconded them.
three nominations, so. So are we comfortable with Zach Taylor and Danielle Shepard?
That's what I seconded. Was that one there?
Yes, you did Danielle, yes. But we also have Zach Taylor and Danielle.
We just approved Zach Taylor.
We did. We've got another one for
I was
Tim
taking them up
Heffley.
separately.
So you're comfortable with Zach Taylor and Danielle Shepard, and you don't want to discuss anything else?
What I seconded.
Okay, there we go. Zach and Danielle.
That's all right with everybody else. That's what I seconded.
Yes, we heard. Okay. Is that good for you, Becky?
Yes, thank y'all very much.
Let's try not to do this again.
Yes, ma'am.
7.6, discussion and possible action regarding the first and final reading of an ordinance to voluntarily annex in property described as 4.0 acre tract of land out of the C.K. Reese survey, abstract number 581 in Lampasas County, Hidden Oaks Subdivision in the ETJ of the city of Lampasas, being part of a 47.26 acre tract of land described in a deed from Joe P. Willis to Arthur Fry, dated November 17, 1989, as recorded in Volume 195, page 430 of the Deeds Records of Lampasas County.
Mayor and council, this item was discussed in public hearing, and at this time, I'm asking for you to approve the first and final reading of the annexation of the Hidden Oaks subdivision.
So approved?
Second.
Got a motion and a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Seven point seven, discussion and possible action regarding the first reading of an ordinance amending the adopted budget for the municipal government of the city of Lampasas for the fiscal year of October 1 to September 30, October 1, 2020 to September 30, 2021.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is the budget amendment for fiscal year ended 2021. I've handed out the ordinance and the exhibit. You should have that there at the dais in front of you. After the dust has settled and we looked at all the revenues and expenses, we are requesting a budget amendment for the electric fund in the amount of $1,905,500 to cover the transfer over to the general fund. This is unusual. We normally are not having to ask for fund balance, but with all of the things that happened in this fiscal year, including the winter storm, it did put the city at a disadvantage.
Any questions of Yvonne?
I would
Need a
just
motion?
like to say I've come down here and picked up packets on Saturdays and Sundays, and she's been here every weekend that I know of that I've been down here, and I would like to thank her for all her hard work.
Thank you for
Thank you.
that. Yes,
Appreciate that.
indeed. Indeed. Need a motion?
Recommend approval.
Second.
Got a motion and a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, ma'am.
Appreciate it.
7.8, discussion and possible action regarding purchase of two 2021 Police Interceptor Utility all-wheel drive police units. Chief Bailey?
Thank you. Mayor, council, in keeping with our fleet management program, we need to purchase two new vehicles, utility vehicles, all-wheel drive. We need to replace unit number 12, a 2010 Crown Victoria and 2011 Crown Vic. We'd like to do that with approval from you not to exceed $110,000, which is budget amount for the two vehicles and most of the equipment for those two vehicles.
Recommend approval.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Are there any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, Chief Bailey. 7.9 is discussion and possible action regarding purchase of two Motorola Solutions WatchGuard in-car video camera systems.
Mayor, council, in replacing the two units, the 2010, the 2011 unit, we need to replace the video camera system that's in those units. We budgeted in capital $14,000. We estimate that that's going to come in just under $12,000. I'd like to ask for a motion to approve that, not to exceed $14,000. We often have those incidental costs of different brackets and wiring and harnesses that come up with the installation of those cameras.
I move to approve.
Have a motion
Second.
and a second, too. Are there any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Now we're going to get rid of one.
7.11, discussion and possible action regarding the award of a professional engineering proposal from Eckerman Engineering Incorporated to,
7.10, Mayor.
oh, sorry. 7.10, oh, you're going to dispose of. Discussion and possible action regarding the surplus or donation of Unit 17, a 2011 Crown Vic police unit.
Mayor, Council, Unit Number 17, the 2011 Crown Vic is burning oil. We are told that to have that vehicle checked will cost more than the worth of the vehicle. We came to, I make a recommendation that we donate the vehicle to the Lampasas ISD Career Technology Department. They can use this vehicle in their automotive shop to determine what the problem is and probably fix it or possibly fix it. And then also the vehicle could be used with the law enforcement criminal justice classes in their felony stops and other procedures that they study up at the high school as well.
Recommend approval.
Second.
Have a motion and a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That's a great idea to donate it to the school. I
Mayor,
like that.
Council, thank you very much. I think it's a huge benefit to the high school, to the LISD. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, 7.11, discussion and possible action regarding the award of a professional engineering proposal from Eckerman to design water line relocations along portions of the Txdot Highway 281 project in the amount of $41,300.
Mayor, council, this item was discussed in workshop session. Do you have any questions or concerns?
Let's just remember how to make the motion when you
I'd
decide.
move to approve.
With the stipulation. How did you want that worded?
Well, yeah, because we need to allow Finley to make the adjustments necessary in regards to whatever changes
We're
we're gonna make.
negotiating according to Txdot's final.
I know it, but I
plans.
want to authorize Finley to make those adjustments so it doesn't have to come back.
I think approval conditional upon items specified by Txdot is a need.
Right, and then you'll bring any changes above that back for ratification?
Certainly.
So that's Randy's
That's my motion.
motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any questions? Everybody comfortable with that? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, Ben. 7.12, discuss and consider the selection of winner of the website photo contest.
Mayor and Council, we actually had 3 entries for this month, and I would just like for you to select one. So we have a fall walk in the park. Then we have Jennifer Cannon's Current and Fall Harmony, which I believe this is one of our new pieces, if I'm not mistaken. Is that,
It's
no?
been there a while.
And then we have Buck in the Fall.
I like the buck.
Anyone making
I
a
like
motion?
the buck.
Is that number 3?
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second for photo number 3. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you.
7.13, discussion and possible action regarding the award of services proposal to Defensor Solutions, LLC, to provide the Lampasas Water Department with an emergency preparedness plan mandated by State Senate Bill 3 for $16,000 and an emergency response plan to fulfill requirements set forth by the U.S. EPA American Water Infrastructure Act for $26,000.
Mayor, council, staff began working on a risk and resiliency plan at the beginning of 2020 and basically ran out of time on it. It took us about 9 months to complete it, not leave us as much time to prepare or submit the plans. So I requested Mr. Finley if he would allow me to bring this to you and request for assistance from Defensor to finalize the plans, submit the plans to the EPA and to TCEQ, and help us implement those plans.
I need a motion
Motion to approve.
and a second.
Second.
Are there questions we'd like to ask Van?
And the account it's coming out of is
Engineering?
the engineering. Okay.
So it's all covered under your current budget?
Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions? Have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, Van. 7:14, discussion and possible action regarding funding for the Tide Flex mixing system to be installed during the Georgetown ground storage tank rehabilitation project in the amount of, we decided it's 66,000, right? Instead of 76? 65,000. So make note of that change, and Randy has excused himself, so
Mayor, Council, this item was discussed in workshop session. It is the mixing system for Georgetown Tank to be installed during the construction and rehabilitation of Georgetown. Any questions or concerns?
Just to clarify, I know I keep asking budget questions, but just to clarify, that is still in the budgeted, your budget?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
It will come out of daily operations budget.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I need a motion, please.
So moved.
A second.
Second.
Any other questions for Van? Nope. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, Van.
Thank you all very much.
We will be going into executive session. If I could get a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We're going into executive for deliberations about real property, deliberation concerning the potential purchase, exchange, lease, acquisition, sale, and/or value of real property. We'll be back.
Mayor and Council, I'd ask that Mandy Walsh also be included in executive session.
Okay, let's adjourn the executive session and reconvene the regular. Motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Discussion and possible action concerning the items posted and discussed by council in executive session. We don't have anything to discuss, so I will take a motion to adjourn the regular session.
So moved.
Let's go home.
Merry Christmas, Council.
Merry Christmas.
Christmas, yeah.
Thank all of you.